wanted to do today was update everyone on where we're at in the strategic planning process. And then we also have an exercise at the end where we want to get your feedback as part of the process. So I'm going to go through these slides fairly quickly because we don't have a lot of time left today, because I want to save some time for you to break up into groups to go through the exercise. So first, here's the process we followed. We obviously had the strategic planning retreat in February with the council. In March, we got together with this group and we looked at 4 different perspectives and got your feedback. Out of that feedback from the March 20 business update meeting, you can see the goals and objectives in the 4 different areas that we came up with, 39 total. You can see the breakdown there by the different groups. A lot of that was based on the feedback that came out of that business update meeting. I think we had some 200 actions that were listed as part of that process. There's also a handout at each table. One of those handouts lists all of those actions that came out of that March 20th business update that were used by each of the teams as they develop their goals and objectives for the 4 different council priorities. This is just where we're at sort of in the process, the vision, the mission, the priorities. We're taking the goals and objectives that have been developed so far, which is this handout at each table. We're taking those goals and objectives to the City Council on the 19th. I'm meeting with them individually between now and then and getting any feedback that they may have on the strategic plan, because obviously it's very important to get their buy-in as well as all of your buy-in into the process. So we're going through that now. Hopefully on the 19th they will approve the goals and objectives that have been laid out, maybe with some minor changes, and then we'll be able to move forward from there. So what we'll have at the end is really we'll have the strategic plan that we're showing here today. There's also a detailed action plan that has very specific actions, milestones that need to be taken place. Those we're not actually taking to council. We're trying to keep them at the policy level and not get down into the actual operation level. And I think for the most part we're going to be able to do that. The other thing that will come out of the strategic plan, once we've got the goals and objectives approved by council, is that each department will then develop their strategic plan that support the overall goals and objectives, along with action plans for each department. So you may have heard about Think Reno. Think Reno is a lot of things. One of the things that it means to me is really the process for us to develop and implement a strategic culture in the city of Reno. It's really not enough, in my mind, to just develop a strategic plan, call it a 5-year plan, put it in a nice pretty binder, put it on a bookshelf, and then we never talk about it again. In order to make this effective and to really see some positive changes come out of it, it really has to be a strategic culture where everybody in the organization buys into it. Everybody understands what their role is and how it relates to the strategic plan that's put out there. So that's what we're really trying to get to, is a strategic culture, and it's what we're calling and branding Think Reno. So anytime you hear the words Think Reno, we have thinkreno.org, which is our community engagement tool, but hashtag Think Reno is really just this whole process that we're going through to develop this strategic culture. So here's a chart, and you have these handouts on the table as well that talk about what is Think Reno. You can see the strategic plan, which is the piece that we're working on now, the action plan, which is also under development, and then out of this we'd also like to see a 1-page sort of summary that gives you sort of a visual of what Think Reno is, what the strategic plan is. It's so important on how we communicate the strategic plan, and all of you in this room are so important to that process that when you go back to your staff and they say, what is Think Reno, that you understand what it is that we're trying to accomplish. You can see on this the strategic plan, the action plan, and then really the most important piece is that strategic culture and really trying to change the mindset of all of our employees to embrace what it is that we're trying to achieve as an organization. So the 4 questions that we're going to go through today is, how do we translate the vision? So what does that mean? That means, how do we translate that vision to every employee in the organization? And I'm not talking about a vision statement. I'm talking about what it is we're trying to achieve as an organization. I'm talking about the 4 priorities that council set out. I'm talking about the goals and objectives. It's not about memorizing a vision statement. I can tell you standing here right now, I couldn't verbatim tell you what the vision statement is. That's really not the important piece, but it sounds like everybody's having a really good conversation, but we are running out of time, so what I'd like to do is have each group designate a spokesperson to quickly summarize the results that each group came up with. So we're going to start over here. I don't know who the spokesperson wants to be.
No, they don't hear you. Kate. Kate, whistle. Kate. Did everyone hear that? Identify a spokesperson and...
Identify a spokesperson for each group. Who's your spokesperson, Deanna? You get to pick.
I get to pick?
Deanna?
Michelle said no.
Deanna.
Go.
Go.
Everyone's saying no. Okay.
All right, we need quiet so everybody can hear.
I have the worst voice. For our job, we needed to look at translating the vision, which is biggest little city in the world, offers exceptional quality of life, culture, and vibrant, diverse economy. Ugh. That's a lot, right? So we want to get into more of asking employees for help. We want them to feel like they're here beyond just earning a paycheck. We realize that listening is important. We need to give the employees the tools to be able to listen and respond. Our frontline employees cannot be scared to give input. They need to know about the Ask Andrew anonymous questions, and we need to continue to use our all-employee picnics and things like that to translate the vision and make sure we communicate what it is and why it's important. Little ideas, big results. Every idea is a good one. We need to start embracing that kind of culture. Every employee matters. The last days, the last years have been brutal. We keep getting asked for more results and less help. We have to be conscious of letting go of the past. Today is a time for us to redefine the future, and we get to define success, and we get to define where we head as a team. And those priorities, the mid-management must care. People, it's not just the employees. The mid-management has got to be helping the employees feel like they are the key. We all know that companies are as successful as their employees. If we care about the employees will care about the company will be successful, we will all be on a winning team. So we decided the best way to make this happen was to develop a program to educate why their job was important to our strategic culture. It needs to be multifaceted. We need to have a one-pager that is very succinct and defines the culture, or the vision, I'm sorry. We need to have Andrew do regular updates and videos about what matters and what the strategic plan initiatives are that are being accomplished. We need to start to cross-train. We think some of the ride-along opportunities and having people sit at Charlotte's desk for a day, or Charlotte come sit at my desk even for an hour or so, just to start to get a better understanding and a mutual respect of what each other does. We talked about doing a Think Reno ambassador team. If we created a short, succinct PowerPoint that translated the vision, and each of us took it out to 5 of our organizations that we're all members of, or even a group that we may meet on Friday night, and try to translate the vision to help get that infiltrated out, because our biggest thing that we found from the Rose Glen research was people don't know what the city does. When they interact with us, they like us, but they don't really understand what City of Reno government does. So it's important that the strategic vision and the culture and all the things that we're working on is communicated. Someone brought up bringing the council brief back to life, so we talked about using our Reno Connect email and doing that, where we can tell more stories internally and externally about what's going on. We talked about making Andrew do the undercover boss. No, just kidding. we did talk about maybe developing some sort of a program that allows our people to go and, again, fill a pothole, help remove snow one day, get it on the ground. And it should be council, Andrew, and also cross-departmentally. So last but not least, we leave you with big employee, little city. Employees are the key.
And that we were challenged with is how do we measure or evaluate progress? And after spending our time talking about this, the one thing we concluded is this is a complex question. It's going to take a lot more time and energy to be able to handle or address. So we did focus, though, on one of the priorities, which was safe neighborhoods. And kind of as an example, I guess, of where this needs to go from that particular question. And we identified, for example, that we need to define who the audience is that we're trying to measure for. Because it wasn't just as simple as saying, what does Andrew think in terms of these measurements? It really has to be broad enough so the employees and the community understands our progress. Because ultimately that's what the measurement's for, is to decide whether or not we're making progress to where we want to be. The starting point from our group really was, and we really need to focus on, what is it we're trying to do? Because that was the first question that everybody asked, is what is it we want to measure? Why are we measuring it? What is it we're measuring? So starting from that question, then we go into the specifics of how we would measure it. But again, going back to an example we discussed, which was safety, and some of the things that our group identified is that, first off, we need benchmarks. We need to understand where we are today to see if the things we're doing are actually getting us closer or taking us further away from where we want to be. And the benchmarks that we discussed for safety were surveys as one tool. And then when we talk particularly about downtown, some of the measurements that we came up with is number of pedestrians. So you have it broadly. We discussed, should we classify the type of pedestrian, but generally the belief was, if we're talking about a safe downtown, probably an increase in the number of pedestrians is a good sign. So that would be an example of a measurement that would show us whether we're progressing toward or moving away from the goal we have for a safe and livable neighborhoods. The other thing is the amount of participation, not only by citizenry, in other words, how active are people in the community, the thought being that if we're successful and perceived as being a valued organization, that people will want to participate with us. If we're not, then we probably won't get any participation. And then also employee participation. How active are we as employees in doing things that would lead to the goal we're trying to achieve? Again, going back to safety would be how active are each of us individually when we see something going on to deal with it, versus just saying, okay, I'll make a note to myself, or I'll call PD and let them know, as opposed to doing something about it themselves. And I don't mean, I don't think, jumping out and grabbing the bad guys, but more about kind of the eyes and ears. What are we doing? Are we going downtown? If downtown needs more pedestrians, are all of us going down there once a month or periodically? Or are we just avoiding downtown? We come to work, we get in our cars, and we leave. Well, if we're trying to change it, a measure of that would be how active are we as citizens in the downtown area. And then another one, again, these are just examples because this was a very complex question to answer in this amount of time, is the number of kids downtown. If there's more children and more kids downtown, that's going to be a sign, we think, of people feeling safe. Because obviously if they feel threatened or they feel scared, they're not going to bring their children into that environment, one would hope. But those are just some examples, so we just need more time. Right? Yes. That was our conclusion.
All right, thank you, Bill.
Kind of building on what has already been talked about, one of the things we needed was, where are we? Where are we now? That's through surveys, trying to figure out what do people understand. And there's a lot of our employees and the public that don't understand where we are right now. So even trying to communicate this, how do we communicate and evaluate the plans and the strategic plan as we go forward? We got to figure out where we are before we even start going forward. There were a number of ideas on how to do that. Talking about, poor Andrew, doing some more videos. Actually, 3 videos, having the employees watch them 3 times, right? Minimum. Yeah, over and over and over again. Having Andrew go to the...
That sounds like a hostile work environment.
Yeah. Go to staff meetings, all city emails, newsletters, because not everyone gets email and not everyone will read email. A lot of people will delete it, and a newsletter or some other form of being able to communicate what's going on, dashboards, and also communicating that we are all part of a whole, not just a department. And how do we do that? Each department has to have their own benchmarks and own strategic plan as part of the overall strategic plan, but also communicating that we are all part of a team. We need to have short and long-term objectives, not just long-term, because if everything is long-term, we'll lose sight. So we need to have short-term wins. We need to communicate some of those accomplishments on thinkreno.org and some of the other communication devices we already have out there. And what else did we have? Your newsletter. The newsletter we talked about using business update. This is a great avenue, but not only at staff meetings, because a lot of times we know what's going on in here, but our other staff does not know what's going on. So each of us have to go to our staff and talk to our staff as to what's going on. You guys got anything else I missed? Come on, don't be shy. You're shy.
All right, good
That's
job,
what I
Robert.
got.
Too, because we had to figure out what we can do better than what's already out there. So in order to do that, we have to figure out what's already out there that's successful and how do we beat it. Our first example was Coca-Cola, so we're like, oh hey, just big aspirations, small budget kind of thing. We were looking to outdo Coca-Cola and beating the culture. But so first of all, we need to identify the successes out there that we can benchmark against. And so Southwest was an example that came up as far as how people believe in the product or the service that they're delivering. And then that culture is built around that. I mean, everybody that works for that organization or Patagonia certainly believes in the product and is part of that culture and enjoys going to work every day. So that would be a huge success for us if we could do that to that level or better. One of the items that came up was cross-departmental integration. We currently do what we can, these meetings, other mechanisms of communication to break down the silos for which we work cross-departmentally. We think we can do that better and continue to strive for increased communication so that we can collaborate and work more closely. We need to, good point that was brought up, we have partnerships. We already have partnerships. That's a practice that's out there with the community and so forth. But if we can expand and enhance those partnerships, both new and existing, we can then bleed the culture into the community, which even gives more momentum to what we're trying to achieve here. So those partnerships are a key success for us that we think we can build on that's already out there. Making sure that, and we've heard this theme, making sure that the objective of the process, like why are we doing this? Is this just another plan that's being shoved down our throats? No, we want to believe in it. What's the objective? What does it mean to me? What does it mean to you? What does it mean to everybody doing whatever their job is throughout the organization to make sure that that culture is moving in the right direction? Enculturation, and this is a chief term, and then he bails, and now I'm left to explain it. But essentially, teaching. It sounds like it's teaching or providing the resources to practice the process. And he was talking about maybe have training classes or some sort of mechanism where new employees, existing employees, temporary employees can come in and have an opportunity to really ask questions and learn what it is, rather than doing this one-time effort and then you're expected to sort of fold the new people in or the temporary employees in. It's an ongoing process of making sure that everybody is up to speed on what it is we're trying to achieve. And then lastly, incentives and enrichment, making sure that and when we have more resources, we can obviously do more with this, but what are the little things we can do for the employee to show everybody that, there's a reason for the fact that we're going through this process, and what are some of those incentives that we can add? Retreats, things that don't cost a lot of money but bring us together as an employee community so that we can continue to further the efforts. And then somebody had to throw in positivity, because that's easy to spell and think about, but sort of building in that culture of just getting everybody amped about what it is that we're about to do. And that's part of what I think we can do better that's already out there. Think of, when you think of the typical government worker, we can be better than that, or what that stereotype encapsulates. So I think we're on the right track, and I'm putting about $100 grand into the budget so that this team can go travel to Googleplex in Southwest so that we can really engage.
great feedback, everyone. Really appreciate it. Great job today. I know it feels like we were short on time because we were. We could have spent a half a day doing this. So what I want to say is if there are folks in this room who are not involved and who are not on a team and you want to get involved, there are 4 teams that are doing this. The Safe and Livable Neighborhoods, which Chief Pitts is heading up that team. The Efficient and Responsive City Services, which Mr. Chisel is heading up that team. The Promote a Sustainable and Vibrant Economy, which Bill Thomas, who left, is heading up that team. And the Enhanced Communication and Community Engagement, which is Deanna. So if you want to get more involved in one of those teams, please reach out to one of those folks and ask them how you can help. And I'm sure they would love to have you on their team. They need all the help they can get. So anybody have any other announcements? I know we ran a little bit over today. I appreciate everyone sticking around. I think this was a great exercise today.